Hello everybody, this is Godzilla 1991 here, and today/tonight, depending on what time it is when you're watching this video, I will be talking about a set that I got for my birthday last December, and that will be the Bandai Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire High Grade / Gashapon set. These are the only figures from the 5th installment of the MonsterVerse that I currently have in the collection. And the movie itself has a mixed reception. Some liked it and others didn't. I enjoyed the picture. It did have some silly moments, I will admit that, but they were really entertaining and gave me a good chuckle. Of course I could do with all that, especially after being bored to death by Monarch Legacy of Monsters. New Empire got me hyped again. In fact, it got me hyped since Godzilla -1. The setup has our 4 main characters, 3 protagonists and 1 antagonist. First up is the main star of the film, which is Kong. Now this Kong is actually quite different to the Kong from the previous Godzilla vs. Kong set, because this time he is portrayed leaping in the air, as this is what he was doing when we first met him, because he was being chased by the war dog creatures at the beginning of the film. When this set was originally announced, I was expecting this miniature to come with an accessory, well, to be more accurate too. One was the display stand, as expected, and we'll be looking at shortly, and the other would be the metal power glove. I think it was called the Beast Glove if my memory serves me correctly. It's been a while since I last saw the movie, even though I do wish that you had the option on which arm you choose to display him with, but to be honest, I would have kept him with the normal arm, as I wasn't a fan of the glove. As I just mentioned earlier, he comes with a display support pole, because this model most certainly cannot stand on his legs, and where you plug it, well, I don't think I really need to say, because you could all see that for yourselves. His colour scheme is clean black, where he should be either weathered or light brown, but then again he could be jumping out of water, hence why he's so clean. Out of the 2 Kong Gashapons that are currently owned in the collection, well, of Titanis Kong to be precise, I think I actually do prefer this version of the character, because he does resemble the traditional Kong, especially without the Beast Glove. And before we move on to the next Titan, here he is with the original 1933 King Kong by Kyoto. Up next is Godzilla Evolved, and this incarnation of the character is quite dramatic. For starters, the dorsal spines look pretty lethal, especially with the Thagomisers that are a clear homage to Stegosaurus. Now I remember when the trailer for the movie came out and Godzilla Evolved was revealed, the community went totally berserk, and online there were memes after memes after memes. Hence why I call them meme gorgy. Well, nowadays anything, whether it's good or bad, is quickly turned into a meme. It also happened to Godzilla -1 himself, well, mainly his size. Some folks have suggested that maybe he could be a reference to Godzilla 2000, and I could see that as a possibility. I do like the pose that he's in, given a battle strike, and we could tell that this is a fast titan from the previous lumbering giant that we're used to. Even though I do prefer the 2019 to 2021 depiction, I do like Godzilla Evolved, and he's the best miniature out of the set according to the polls. And I do hope that for the next installment of the MonsterVerse, that being Godzilla X Kong Supernova, Godzilla will be the main character and Kong will be as dominant as he has been for the past 2 movies in the series. Kaiju number 3 is the Ice Titan Shimo, who's actually my favourite out of the set. And I think if my memory serves me correctly, I believe that she may have been the first Gashapon that I assembled. Well, she was the first one out of the packaging. Now, from what I have heard, Shimo was actually meant to be a surprise, hence why we only saw her eyes in the trailer. However, this was unfortunately spoiled through the releases of toys and various other merchandise of the character. I guess Doctor Who's River Song must be the owner of Playmates, because this also happened to Mechagodzilla as well, again for the merchandise for Godzilla vs. Kong back in 2021. Anyway, I digress. Her design in my eyes appears to be an amalgamation between the characters Anguirus and Varan. Anguirus because her crown is not identical, but clearly similar to his, and she possesses crystal-like spines on her back, just like Anguirus, but her spiky arrangement is nothing like his. However, they all point in the same direction as Varan's spines. And speaking of which, the structure, again, although not identical, it's kinda similar to Varan. Legendary may not have the rights for Varan and Anguirus, even though there were occasions where they have tried to acquire the license to both kaiju, well, mainly Anguirus. But we do have Shimo, a new monster, who is a cross between the 2 characters, while still maintaining her own original design and appearance. For starters, she is an ice kaiju, which is completely brand new. I don't think we've ever had an ice monster, not only in the MonsterVerse, but Godzilla in general. There was Barugan who had frost breath, however he's from the Gamera series. So now that I think about it, Shimo also possessed frost breath herself, just like Barugan, so there you go. Titanus Shimo is a mixed hybrid between Anguirus, Varan and Barugan, as well as Stegosaurus, because she too possesses Phagomisers on the end of her tail, but in this case, they're almost blade-like. Her pulse betrays her on the prowl, so she kinda looks like a cat stalking its prey. And for whatever reason, well at least on the high-grade model, her face kind of reminds me of this nightmare fuel-looking tarantula. This is a truly perfect figure, and definitely my favourite out of the set. As I mentioned earlier, the only corrections that I could point out would be the claws, because they should be crystal blue and not white. And she's also undersized as well. But aside from those nitpicks, Shimo is a great new character, and spoilers to all those who haven't seen New Empire, because she was forced to attack and do terrible things against her will, you really do sympathise with her situation, as she wasn't an evil creature, so when Zuko and Kon destroyed the crystal that Scar King used to control her, and Shimo realised that she was now free from the evil primate's grasp, you cheered for her when she turned her former master into an ice sculpture, and were happy when Kong showed her kindness. Also, out of the new Titans of the MonsterVerse, I think Shimo is my favourite, along with Titanus Behemoth, and I'll definitely take her over the Mutos. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like the Mutos from the 2014 Godzilla movie, but to me they were kinda generic looking and pretty logical, where compared to classic monsters from Toho that are a lot more imaginative with creative designs, where characters like Shimo, Behemoth and even the Skullcrawlers, I thought now that's more like it. So that's Shimo now covered, and this is what she looks like with Kong and Godzilla involved. Those are the heroes of the film. Finally is the antagonist of the story, Scar King, who is basically the evil version of Kong. But where Kong is a gorilla, Scar King is meant to be an orangutan, so I've heard. His fur was red in the film, and the high-grade model reflects this perfectly well, and he has some areas that are grey and white. I believe that I do prefer the paint job of the Japanese miniature over the US Playmates version, as that one is too light. He comes with the bear trap support stand to help him balance, and his other accessory is of course the Bone Whip, which is not only his main weapon, but he also used to control Shimo. However, this item is not removable, as it's sculpted into him and is part of the figure's build. My favourite part of him would be the smirk, as it does show pure evil. You know, this is only a miniature, it's just a little grin, but the idea is there. And thus the larger models have captured the expression much better. I like his design and pose making him look very lanky, and the way that his arms have been positioned, he does look as if he's just getting off his throne when Kong made his presence known. The sizing is pretty decent, average as expected for a miniature. However, there is one downside to it all, because Scar King is taller than Shimo, where in the movie the Ice Titan was actually a lot bigger than the villain. Scar King is another great addition to the set, and while the Gashapon doesn't look as terrifying and horrific as his on-screen counterpart, but he's still great looking nonetheless. And it's always great to get brand new characters for the franchise, because then we get merchandise, which only help to make our collections bigger. And that's the Godzilla x Kong The New Empire High Grade / Gashapon set, and it's a fantastic pack if you're a fan of the movie, like I am, and far more superior to Playmates, despite the fact that I actually own the Godzilla vs Kong Playmate set, but perhaps we'll look at that one another day. When this set was finally announced, I was so happy to see that Shimo was one of the characters, because a couple of the latest newer HD sets have been quite disappointing, the example being the Gamera Rebirth set, as that one was the worst set of all, because it came with 3 variants of Gamera, and of all kaiju, a Gauss embryo. I mean seriously, what on earth were they thinking? Why not do Gamera with 3 monsters, and a set 2 with Flying Gamera, with other 3 beasties again? Oh, and don't get me started on the Godzilla Singular Point set, well, to be more accurate, HDD set 7. For that one, all it is, it's just Godzilla Ultima, who I do have in the collection by the way, and Jet Jaguar. The other 2, those being Mechagodzilla 2 and Acromothra, they only feel like names that were just pulled out of a hat. Those were the anime sets, so you can imagine that I was awaiting the New Empire set with dread. I knew that this set would contain Kong, Godzilla Evolved, and Scar King, but for the fourth figure, I was actually expecting it to be the little pipsqueak Suko. However, to my relief, it was Shimo instead, and thus I think a lot of people would want Shimo rather than Suko. Anyway, that's all I've got to say now, folks. This is Dragonzilla 1991 signing out. Take care, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.